Welcome, everyone, to the latest installment of The Way It Is. I'm your host, Luca Andolfato, and with Remax Service First Realty, Inc. here in Kingston. And it's a pleasure to have back on the podcast a longtime dear friend of mine and the all-seer and all-knower of a lot of things, John Lusink, who's now the president, and still is the president. He was back when we had him first on, and he still is now, of Right at Home Realty in the GTA. And one of the reasons I wanted John on is, first and foremost, to be very candid, is I was at a loss for a podcast topic today. And given what's happening in the world and everything else and guests that we're postponing. So John was kind enough to volunteer, but also he's very timely, right on the heels of a newly minted study that or survey actually that Right at Home Realty I guess commissioned or had done, which has some pretty, I guess, some revealing sort of fallout, maybe some not so much, but a couple of eyebrow raisers in it. So anyway, welcome, John, again. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Luca. And just to, the good news is I'm still president of Right at Home and now also president of Property.ca, which is a brokerage we acquired that's in Toronto and has the Condos.ca brand as well. So,
oh wow, great! Well, congratulations.
So they get me to do more for less. That's how it works.
It's too bad you weren't 25 years old. You could ask to do less for more. So,
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, did I say that out loud? Oops. So, getting to this survey, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read sort of the highlights, and then
sure.
and then you can dive into the sort of the context of them. So. It says most 80% of Ontario homeowners are not planning to sell their home in the next 2 to 3 years, compared to 77% in 2021. I mean, on the face of it, that's not too drastic an increase, but an increase nonetheless. Only 19% of potential first-time home buyers in Ontario plan to buy in the next 2 to 3 years. Right. Compared to 30% in 2021, an overall decrease of 56% year over year. Right. Nearly one quarter, 23% of Ontario homeowners who plan on selling their home are doing so to take advantage of the current market, compared to 11% in 2021, doubling this amount since last year. That's an eyebrow raiser. I put a star beside that one. And then finally, nearly 1/3, 32% of Ontarians say the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted their ability to save for a home, compared to nearly one quarter, 23% in 2021, a 39% increase year over year. So, why don't you start? Tell us why the purpose of the survey and what triggered it and what you're seeing in your market area then, John.
So we actually started this. This is the second annual. We started this last year. And really the intention was to get a survey of, general public. It's a public opinion study, to get a general idea of people's, intentions, thoughts, with respect to the market. And so, this is something that it's our intention to do every year. And, because it does provide some interesting insight and feedback. So, we commissioned the study. It's not cheap, but it's a, randomly surveyed Ontario adults. And the idea here is to give us a sense of, what people are thinking. And, last year we got a sense that people were looking for more space, more room, affordability, and there seemed to be a bit of an exodus. And, here you can see, that it's sort of now, I think, more reflective of what's happening in the market with higher rates and, and continuing high prices. So, the 80% not planning to sell, in a way, I'm not surprised. And that's really a result, I feel, of the dual impact of rising rates, which is, rising carrying costs, of course, that's easy to think about. But then there's the secondary factor, which is if you're thinking of selling and you still aren't going to be mortgage free, and so you need to borrow, you're now looking at, a doubling of your payment. So I might just sit still. Mm-hmm. And so, contrary to public opinion or some of what the media has been saying, there isn't suddenly a flood of property sitting on the market. I mean, I look at our own listing inventory across our, almost 6,000 agents. And so Ottawa to Barrie over to Niagara, we have 2,067 listings at the moment. A year ago, we had 1,831. And don't forget, this is also heading into the summer market. So, I'm not sure. So I guess the point I was trying to make is that there's a bit of a holding pattern, and I don't see much happening through the summer. I also think people are COVID exhausted and finally able to get to the cottage, take some trips, although maybe not too far given gas prices. But I think people are going to take the remainder of the summer off. It's going to be really quiet.
Yeah, you know what? And I've said that to my guys here at the office, and I've said it to because I'm sure you're like me, and you get inundated with calls and questions, and we were jokingly talking before we went live here. People are asking me my new saying for what's happening in the market. I said, well, the air brakes are on and the flaps are down. But you're right. This is the first summer come next week where people are going to. Well, travel. Those that have passports can travel. I guess there's those that are still waiting, but they're gonna either do their Ontario go camping thing, do this, do that. Again, gas prices considered, all that kind of stuff. And you're right. I think people are finally just going to say, you know what, we need this summer to sort of take a deep breath and recharge and do that. And we're seeing that. I mean, and we're going to dive into a couple of different points too, because I want to get a sense of what's happening in your market. Because again, we get the ripples, not as quickly, but we get the ripples. But, I listed a property on Monday, and again, longtime client, dear friend of mine. And, I was encouraging him to do this a lot earlier. I mean, these conversations started last year, and we posted it Monday. Today's our first official scheduled viewing, and it's Thursday, right? So there's the difference right there where, and previously I was saying, in the last podcast that maybe we've gone to, 218, 219 levels, but actually I think we're even pre that now, where it's just like you said, people's priorities isn't real estate right now. It's not right now. And I will also say, as you well know, it takes time for sellers and buyers to adjust to a changing market. So I know sellers here are still of the opinion, hey, you listed it on Monday, where's my offer Monday night, right? And so there's a bit of an adjustment has to happen. And the second point I'll make is, it's going to be time now for us realtors to actually earn a living again, meaning do the work. Yes.
You can't throw up the sign in the listing and sit back and wait for the 10 offers.
Yeah. Well, and selfishly, and I'll probably get chastised by colleagues in the industry, and truthfully, I really don't care, but I find when markets shift like this, let's hope maybe there's some change in the numbers of registrants that participate in real estate, right? So
yeah, I think this is the time when the professionals have to step up and show their clients again that they're worth every penny, right? And so become students of the market, because unfortunately that is part of the problem, is not enough people really study and understand what's going on. And quite frankly, that's actually what we get paid for, is to interpret what's going on and help the clients understand, right? So
to make informed decisions. Absolutely. So the one survey topic that I put an asterisk beside was that one about nearly 1/4, 23% of Ontario homeowners who plan on selling their home are doing so to take advantage of the current market compared to 11%. I mean, given what we just described, doesn't that seem like a bit of a contradiction given in the face of what we've just talked about and stuff? Or
Yeah, I think if you look, the survey was done May 10 to 12.
okay.
I would say if that survey was done today, that might be very different. But let's also be honest. Certainly in the GTA, I think where the trouble will begin to show up is, of course, outside of the GTA proper. But in the GTA, Toronto, Greater Toronto area, prices are still escalating. They're not dropping. The media would like to tell you that the market's crashing, it's tanking, the bubble's bursting. This isn't true. And that's why I brought up inventory right at the beginning. Inventory is nowhere near balanced. We are still well under 2 months inventory in most districts in and around Toronto.
Okay.
So until such time as inventory gets anywhere close to 4 to 6 months, there's nothing balanced about this market yet. The challenge now is finding the buyer who's qualified.
And that's just it. And with every interest rate hike, they're taking affordability away from buyers, right? So
if you have to stress test around 7-8%, I don't know. I think that takes a whole raft of buyers out of the market, right? So, but having said that, and it's interesting because I watch closely what's going on in Windsor because I have one of my kids lives there and we have a house there, and right now that market's still super strong. But if I was going to say where will prices actually drop, I would say it's in smaller town Ontario markets and cities where it might start. But it's all subject to inventory.
Yeah.
If the inventory doesn't come on, and something else I can tell you from speaking with a number of our pre-con condo and low-rise development companies that we're working with, you're going to see maybe upwards of 5,000 condo units get taken off the market. High-rise construction is up by 21%.
Wow.
Their demand has dropped overnight drastically. So, between construction loan costs, consumer loan costs, and then pricing, and there's a number of projects that were sold in the last year or 2 or 3 at 1,000 per square foot or less. That doesn't come close to covering the cost today.
Yeah.
So we're already seeing certain projects cancel. So if you thought there might be some inventory release there on the new construction side, forget that piece too.
Yeah. No, excellent point. Well, and so, and we're seeing that here in Kingston, where inventory levels. You know what? And embarrassed to say, I don't have the stats, and I didn't prepare that way for this, but I would still say that you're right. We're at a situation where it is very locationally dependent, property dependent, and price point dependent in terms of what's getting the activity, what's selling for asking, what's selling potentially. Some are still selling for over asking marginally now, but still, the over asking, and then what's languishing on the market. And I think that, what's languishing on the market are those sellers and that are still disconnected with what's happening in the marketplace. In terms of, it's like I've talked about ad nauseum in previous podcasts. It's not January, February, and March anymore, people. It's a different reality now. And to that point, and that's where I get frustrated with the sound bites all through the pandemic. And it's a bubble bursting, bubble, a cooling. Well, okay, so if levels even drop by 10% or 15%, well, appreciation's still at 15% then, or 10%. It's still a double-digit appreciation value, right?
Yeah,
so property values are still the highest they've ever been in the country.
We shouldn't compare to last year or even 2020 because both years were anomalies.
Yes.
Really, if you want to draw a comparison, take a look at 2019. We're still well ahead of 2019 figures. So, doesn't mean it can't change in the next month or two if we get another 0.75 rate hike or what have you. But again, to my earlier comment, demand is what they've quashed.
Yes.
Nobody's fixed supply.
That's right. No,
Hasn't
good point.
So,
Excellent point. No. So what are we seeing? We're seeing here now the trickles of it, and I kind of half afraid to even open this door, but for our listeners, but we're seeing. In fact, I've got an exact situation where we had clients from the GTA relocating to this area, purchased a property, put their property for sale, got an offer on their property, hasn't closed yet. Those people haven't sold their property now because of the shift all of a sudden. And now all of a sudden we're hearing conversations about we need an extension, or we're hearing stories where people are just literally walking away from deposits and buyers, this whole buyer's remorse, which I talked about last week, but now just not showing up. You know what I'm saying? Are you seeing that in your market area?
Well, I can tell you from my deals team here, speaking with all 20 of them here and there from time to time, a lot more mutual releases coming through because financing's an issue.
Yep.
And then deals that were supposed to close getting extensions, which ultimately can mean we might be in a problem.
Yep.
Fill in the E&O form quick.
Yep.
I do think that there is some of that, and then of course, there's some buyers that stepped up and in our market, paid 200, 300, 400, 500 over asking, and of course the bank's now doing their appraisal, going, I don't think so. So I'm not surprised.
But I guess part of me, because it's got to be a smaller percentage, because presumably some of these buyers sold at a good time too and made off like bandits. Did they not? Like they all just didn't come up and not have a house to sell. So some of them were trading dollars or trading up too, right? And they took advantage, right? I mean,
no, exactly. But again, I think that's a bit of the ripple effect, and timing is everything. So, if they were able to lock in a rate and do that on the mortgage side and the finance, then they might be okay. But as you well know, with financing, banks can pull it at any time. If they send in the appraiser and the appraiser comes back and says, no, that won't, that can't work. Now we're in a problem because the bank is perfectly within their rights in the small fine print on page 59 that says, hey, we can ask you for more down payment.
Yeah, no. The mortgage commitment means nothing anymore. That's for sure.
No, and so they're stretched. So I'm not surprised. I do think, and speaking with an E&O lawyer the other day, there's a lot of that coming now. So, that'll filter through, and I do think that people who bought 3 and 4 years ago, coming up for renewal, that's where we may also see some inventory coming back on the market because they simply can't afford it.
Yeah. Even at the variable rates, that's just it, right? Because variable rates are going to be pushing almost 5% probably pretty soon, I guess, if they're raising that stress test. But I guess what frustrates me the most, John, and certainly we're getting off topic, but I always appreciate your opinions, is, what frustrates me about Macklin and the Bank of Canada is that they were asleep at the switch during the pandemic.
Yes.
Now they're trying to play catch up, and there's no way in hell are they going to get inflation down to 2 to 3%, the ideal goal, just by raising interest rates. So stop what you're doing, because you're going to create more harm than you are doing good. So
yes. Yeah. No, I agree. I made that comment to a reporter the other day. I said, I think we all should be really upset with the policymakers because they were too late and now too early and too aggressive. And, it's sort of too late after the fact. They didn't do it in time. I mean, overall policy's been really, they've made a mistake. They've really messed it up. I was just looking for something. And, a number of the measures promised, of course, during elections, housing related measures. I mean, none of these, nobody's talked about those again. That was for the election. So, tax-free home savings account, First-time
The
home
100
buyers tax credit. Where's that? The Housing Accelerator Fund. I don't know. It's gone. None of these, and they all have yet to be passed and approved. It's just so, it's overall complete mismanagement of what actually really is the country's biggest economic engine has really been mismanaged.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been thinking about this, and it's almost where they've got to treat. And I'm not one where, I want government interference all the time, and I don't want handouts. I'm not, but yet inflation almost has to be treated like the pandemic to a certain degree, right? I mean, you want to keep the economy going. Well, keep people in the economy, subsidize a living wage, subsidize, small business to pay a living wage, subsidize people to get off their ass and get a job or work at a job. Because that's, everywhere you go, that's all we hear from anybody in any sector. You can't hire anybody, even though there's unemployment's at an all-time low. For what?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't get anybody to work.
Yep. No, they're still living off whatever they saved during the pandemic, and also what they were gifted by our government.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So anyway, it's very frustrating. Listen, I won't keep you. I know you're a busy guy. But listen, we talked about that. What's fall 2022 after the summer furlough? What do you think? What do you foresee?
I am very cautiously optimistic that we might see a bit of a bump, a surge, but I say that subject to any nuclear wars or other such world events happening. And there's just too many things that still could have an impact. But I think maybe people come back from their break. See maybe potential more interest rate hikes and realize, okay, if I'm going to buy, look, 4 or 5%, still an attractive rate. I mean, I bought my first house, it was 11%. So,
exactly.
But the issue there is good paying jobs, steady, income and appraising out okay.
Yes.
I think we could see a bit of a mini surge. In the fall, I hope.
Well, and I'd like to hope so too. And I mean, again, the fact that we're also in a market now where buyers are taking back some control a little bit in terms of conditional offers, financing, inspection. And exactly. I dare say, I think it's even going to creep in conditional on the sale of a property. I'm sure you're going to see some of those happening soon.
I wouldn't be surprised. Right? I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, quote unquote, some normalcy in the market is never, I guess, a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. No, not a bad thing. So
listen, thank you so much for jumping in today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I always appreciate our conversation. Enjoy your summer.
You too. I'm going to try.
All right. Sounds good. All right, John. Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
My pleasure.